4.5 is about point slope form of a linear function, and we're going to be writing equations of a line in point slope form today. Point slope form is the second form of a linear function. First one was slope intercept form, which was y equals mx plus b. In point slope form, it is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, where x1 and y1 makes it a point. This is your x coordinate and the y coordinate, and m being the slope. So in example number 1, we are going to graph y minus 2 equals 1 over 3 x plus 1. In this equation, the linear function is in the form of point slope form. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the original underneath it, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And we are going to locate the point and the slope of this line. So the point, which are x1 and y1. So here's my y1, and if you notice for the x, they're opposite in signs. So the original formula has x minus x1, but to make it a positive one, plus 1, the x has to be negative 1. And then in this case right here, y minus y1, so it's y minus 2, so y1 is 2, positive 2. And the slope is 1 over 3. So this is my rise over run, so that means I'll go up 1 and right 3. Or it could be same as negative 1 over negative 3, which is still positive 1/3, but this one tells me to go down 1 and left 3. So to graph this, we start at this point. So I'm going to draw my x and y axis. And we're going to locate the point, negative 1, 2. So here's negative 1, here's 2. So here's that point. From the given point, we're going to use our slope, up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Or go back to the point and we'll go down 1 over 1, 2, 3. Then together, it makes a line of that equation. And that's how you use point slope form. So when it's given, remember, when it's opposite in signs, your number is going to be opposite of what's given. And then if the signs are the same, it will be the positive number. And we just locate the point and the slope, and then we graph. In example number 2, we're going to write an equation in point slope form. Given the slope of negative 2 and the line passes through the point 3, negative 3. So we want to write it in the point slope form. And point slope form is again y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Then we know that slope is negative 2. And the point given is 3, negative 3. And we're going to label that x1 and y1. So that when we plug it in, we know exactly where it goes. So then we're going to plug it in. Y minus y1 is negative 3 equals m, which is negative 2, and then x minus x1, which is 3. And minus a negative makes it a plus 3, so this becomes y plus 3 is equal to negative 2, x minus 3 in quantity, right there. And that is the equation of this line with the slope of negative 2, and it goes through this point in point slope form. Now, if I just give you, in another example, example number 3, I want you to write an equation in point slope form that passes through 3, -8, and -2, 5. So in this example, the slope is not given. So to write an equation in point-slope form, which is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, I need to find my slope. So remember, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So if you use the formula, my slope will become 5 minus -8 over -2 minus 3. So just plug it in. So then minus a negative makes it a plus. So this makes it 13 over -5. Or remember I told you we could find slope this way by listing our order pairs 3, -8 and -2, 5. This one we went up 13 and this one we went down 5. So slope is 13 over -5. It still works the same way. So now we have the slope and we have 2 points. You could pick either point. Since I labeled the 3, -8 as my x1 and y1, I'm just going to use this point. So we're going to come over here, plug it in. So y minus y1 is -8 equals slope is -13 over 5. And then x minus x1, which is 3. So then minus a negative makes it a x plus 8 equals -13 over 5, x minus 3, and it is in point-slope form. Now if you choose to use the second point, it works too. And it's the same answer, it is the same line, even though it's 2 different points. But it's still, you could pick either one and you still get the same answer. Or you still get the correct answer. So in this case, here's my x and y. So y minus y1, which is 5 over here, if I use that point, equals same slope, 13 over 5, -13 over 5. And this time x is negative, so minus a -2. So y minus 5 equals -13 over 5, and this becomes x plus 2, because the minus a negative becomes a plus. So either one of these answers are correct. So you have choices when you are given to write an equation in point-slope form if 2 points are given. And then in another example, let's call this example number 3b, and let's call this A. In 3b, I'm going to give you a graph, and in this graph, I want you to write an equation in point-slope form and also in slope-intercept form. So in this graph, the line will go through -1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and also 0.23, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and I have this line. And I want to write an equation of the line in point-slope form and I want to write it in slope-intercept form. So the point slope, this one, is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And this slope-intercept form will be then y equals mx plus b. And there's 2 ways to write this one, and I'm going to show you how. But the first one is I got point at -1, 3, and I got a 2, 3. So to write the equation, first of all, I need slope. So m equals, and then I'm going to go from this point to this point. That means I'm going to go down 1, which is -1, rise over run, and then I got to go over to the right 3, so slope is -1 over 3. Now it would be the same thing if I went from 2, 3 to -1, 3, because this one I would get a 1, 4, sorry, -1, 4. And the slope will be then 1 over 3. So this will be, I'll go up 1 and then -3, which is still the same thing, -1 over 3. Still a negative slope. Now to write an equation in point-slope form, you could pick either point. I recommend picking a point that both are positive. Then you don't have to change the sign. So in point slope form, I got y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So slope is this. I'm going to use the point 2, 3, and it will be x1, y1 if I label them, and I'm going to plug them in. Y minus y1 is 3 equals, slope is negative 1 over 3, and then it'd be x minus x1, which is 2. And this is in point slope form. And you could do the same thing with negative 1, 4, which still will give you the same answer. I mean, another equation, but it's the same line. So if I were to use the other one, negative 1, 4, the equation would be y minus y1, which is 4, equals, slope is negative 1/3, x minus a negative 1 minus a negative 1 makes it a plus 1. So my equation would be y minus 4 equals negative 1 over 3 x plus 1, and that will be the same, it will be the same line, just the equation looks a little different, but it's the same answer. You could give me either one. Now we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. There's two ways of doing this, and when you get to Algebra 2, some teachers have a different preference, and I'm going to show you both. So one way to write in slope-intercept form is to transform into y equals mx plus b. And to do that, what we do first is we distribute to get y by itself first. So y minus 3 is equal to, when I distribute that in, I get negative 1/3 x, and minus a negative, or negative minus a negative makes it a positive. And if I put this over 1, you just multiply straight across. So 1 times 2 is 2, over 3 times is 2/3. And because we want to get in slope-intercept form, I got to get y by itself. And to get y by itself, I got to add 3 to both sides. And then y is equal to negative 1 over 3x. And 3 plus 2/3 is 3 2/3. So if you notice from the graph, this point, if you were to guessing, is probably not the same as what you guessed before. That point is at 3 2/3. So this is in slope-intercept form, transforming it from the point slope form by distributing and adding to get y by itself, and this will be slope-intercept form. Now, another way, which some teachers prefer, is to go directly to slope-intercept form. And we're going to use y equals mx plus b. So we know that slope is negative 1/3. And we pick a point. So let's pick 2, 3. And because there's no y1 and x1, we're just going to label this x and y. So we're going to plug it directly into y equals mx plus b. And we're going to solve for the actual y-intercept. We're going to solve for b. So when you plug it in, I got 3 equals negative 1 over 3 times 2 plus b. And we're going to solve for b. So we're going to multiply that out. So then I get 3 is equal to negative 2 over 3 plus b. And to get b by itself, we add 2/3 to both sides. So b equals 3 2/3. And that's what we got right here. They're exactly the same. So then once we have our y-intercept and once we have our slope, now you write the equation y equals negative 1 over 3x plus 3 2/3. And that is writing an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So you may choose whether to do it this way or to write it in point slope form and transform it to slope-intercept form.